Howdy, all of you delicious people. I'm here today to review Prison School, the first 4 episodes. So, we make our way into a show that I think a lot of people will take away from it. The utter disgusting sexual things going on to it, the raunchy nature. But probably won't go on to remember at all how much that these guys end up getting their behinds just consistently beaten out of them. Throughout this whole entire thing. That'll be a thing that's just lost from people. Like, it won't be the violence, it'll just be whatever weird, like, oh, somebody pees on somebody this day, or oh, somebody goes on and spits on somebody. Oh no, the horrors. I'm sorry, I would honestly go on and realize that this is basically yet another bit of college humor of a show that when you kind of look at stuff like Revenge of the Nerds, or if you look at stuff like Blue Mountain State is even much more raunchier than the show. So that's how I kind of feel about Prison School. Like, I'm just like, okay, Prison School, like, really put some stake on it, because you have to go on and be some kind of real unique snowflake or whatever, because all I'm tuning in for this show is just to see some beautiful naked women, and and that's all I can really get from this, as well as also having a great comedic time, because I am laughing at these 4 episodes. Through my whole way through, I'm to go on and be chuckling, laughing, and enjoying this. I've gone on in the past and seen the whole first season, at least, of this show, so feasibly, like, there's nothing to really be way too shocking for me. So if anything, I would go on and ultimately recommend this show. I don't know if this show is to be conveniently somewhere like a Hulu or something, but I'm going to otherwise state that there are to be a number of bootleggish apps that are to be anime related, and I'll go on and suggest 2 to you. So, if you were to have a mobile device in a Google Play Store, you can be able to go on and find this show via these apps called Hanime. That's anime with an H. You could also go on and find another app called Anime, and then a secondary word, KAI. Go on and find both these apps, be able to watch this show for absolutely free without any kind of subscriptions. Throw away your Crunchyroll subscriptions or any other kind of things of which that you would have to go on and pay a fee to be able to see some anime, or anime that clearly you're just watching it for a very specific, narrow reason, which that's fine, because at the end of the day, hopefully that'll go on and be the reason why you check out this review, to be able to watch this show for free. So, with that said, now let's go on and let's actually dissect these episodes and talk about them. So, again, they're raunchy and and disgusting natures, whatever. I've seen Blue Mountain State. I got on to see a guy pack an Oreo up his butt crack, and then afterwards whip it back out and eat it. Like, yeah, like, Blue Mountain State is the kind of the real measuring stick of how gross could a show get. And it's a college themed thing. It's basically the same goddamn thing. I'm gonna tag this show with this, so that way hopefully that'll get this show to have a much more appeal to it. Because what else will go on and do that? Nothing. So, besides hopefully hoping that this show has some weird draw to it anyways, I don't think that's going to happen. I'm going to really have to put the mileage on this one. I can also go on and mention prison movies like Jailbait and Locked Up that are go on and have fairly amounts of skin. It has a jail theme, really helping everybody out to go on and say, hey, yeah, there's a number of reviews that I've gone on to do this channel that are to really just be similar to this show, if you guys are to go on and have this show being more appealing to you. But anyways, so let's finally get into the description of this show, as it takes me too long to go on and do other things. So we come to find a group of boys finally defined that their college is to be co-ed. That means both male and female genders are to have arrived within this area. So these guys, when going on and realizing that they can never get a woman in their life, because as soon as they open their mouth, it seems that they can say nothing cool but, hey, I'm the new guy. So these guys go on and they get probably sexually frustrated because they've never heard of a search engine in their life. They don't know an adult site exists. They don't know that a rated R movie that is to have bits of skin of it is to also exist, because maybe they don't know anything about movies enough. Yeah, there could have been a ton of ways they could have avoided prison time within the show, but still they go on and they, in desperation, need to see real legitimate boobalage. So these guys concoct a plan that they want to go on and be able to hover these phones over this rooftop into these windows that are to be of these women showering, so they could actually see naked women in a live feed. So eventually what does happen as these guys dangle these phones over these windows, eventually one of the phones fall into the window, forcing then the person who was to have had their phone had this done to is to need to recover it. So which this guy does that, which is Kishio. I'll go in and I will kind of briefly in the cliff notes explain the lead up to this, but I'll eventually hang on to what we're kind of doing up to the point where I feel that I can draw back to that at some certain point, because that's what I just like to do anyways. So Kishio or Kiyoshi goes on to eventually pretend that he's a woman, which seems within these 4 episodes to be a consistent thing, bizarrely. And Kishio eventually is to figure out a way to get his phone and then figure out a way to get out of there without being caught. But then eventually the rest of his group of guys does go on and does end up getting caught, while these crows are kind of swarming around them, and the principal or president and vice president to go on and find them on this rooftop and then basically nail these guys to these stakes or these sticks or whatever, and are to flog them and punish them and probably stone them if only they had rocks. So I'm not talking stoned, I'm talking stoned. For those of you that are keeping count here. So we then have Kiyoshi that eventually is to be caught by President after the fact, and we have Chio that is to go on and not believe in her mind that Kiyoshi had gone on to do such an act of this horrible nature. How could he have gone on and been interested in the flesh of a naked woman when he is to just be so in love with sumo wrestling, as the two of us have gone on to have a conversation with one another in the past? Yeah. Let's go on and let's foreshadow this bad boy and talk about why I'm talking about that. So, let's dip back into the past of this show. So we come to find out that Kiyoshi is to be very awkward with women, and he goes on to make his way into this classroom and is to have dropped this eraser. This eraser has a sumo wrestler on it. All of a sudden, Chio is to have noticed that this guy has this eraser. It's like, oh, you like sumo wrestling? Oh, let's go on and just have this huge long conversation about sumo wrestling. And Kiyoshi doesn't know anything about sumo wrestling. If anything, his mother is to actually be a sumo wrestling fan. So he goes on and is to regurgitate anything that his mother has ever said about that sport. So that way he can go on and win this girl over, which honestly, like, does he really need to have to? There's like a billion of them. But if anything, if Kiyoshi just really likes this girl, then it makes all the sense in the world for him to go on and do that. But also there are certain times where he's going on and just thinking about how he's going to get to second base or go on and also just like advance with this girl, and that's all he really gives a shit about. Let's be honest here. So, and I get that. Like ultimately, I guess if a guy has never gone on and really seen ever a woman naked, because again, a Google search or adult site doesn't seem to exist in this world, then yeah, I guess that's all probably is on his effing mind anyways. But pushing on. So, because hormones. Hormones. Because if you guys don't know, yeah, eventually the chairman is to go on and have these like one-off words that he just blasts out, and it's funny. This show is freaking hilarious, and if you haven't seen it, you're giving yourself a disservice because you're gonna be laughing throughout these 4 episodes at least, if not the whole season. Hormones. Anyways, so we have then Kiyoshi that is going on and on talking to this woman about sumo wrestling, everything that his mother knows about it that he can remember. And then it seems that they're going to go on and have a date between one another on the weekend. But then after this whole prison thing is to go on and happen, Kiyoshi is thinking that there's a possibility that he probably won't be able to date this girl. Or also, she might think him weird and, again, not date him. Man, what a defeat that would go on to be. There's like freaking 30 other or 50 other women probably at this college, but hey, like, whatever. Just move on, Kiyoshi. Unless all these women are probably to assume that you're gay or any other things by what you've kind of done throughout these 4 episodes. Like, yeah, I'm sure the women will talk anyways. So, Kiyoshi eventually is to come to find, as he is to continue to be prison schooled, that even the weekends are to go on and be a thing that it seems will have him need to do these community service like tasks and almost miss his date. So Kiyoshi is to eventually decide within these episodes to do a prison break, and eventually one of his other prison mates is to go on and find this out. So, and he's not flacking him on it. He's like, hey man, like if you're gonna go on and break out, then if anything, I will help you, but in turn, I want something in exchange. And what is that exchange gonna be? Should it be that this guy goes on and makes Kiyoshi his puppet? No. Gakuto wants to go on and get some figurines because he is to be a guy that like nothing else matters besides his figurines. I understand that. Like I definitely can go on and sympathize with that whole thing of like, well, hey, like these figurines make him happy, so nothing else in the world should matter. Not even his popularity, not even his chance of eventually being able to make sweet lovin' with a woman or a guy or a goat or whatever. Goat. Who freaking cares? So, like, yeah, if anything, it kind of gets a little weird in those farm shows. So, we make our way into. I'm completely spacing on the name. Gakuto, that eventually is to team up with Kiyoshi, and the two of them are planning about how he's going to prison break out of there. The more and more, of course, simplistic this seems to go, the more complicated it eventually has to be. Because, of course, it does. They go on and they concoct this whole hole scheme, and then they realize that that hole has been filled. So then they go on and they eventually have to come up with some other goofy route, of which that is to have Kiyoshi eventually make his way to sneaking out of this school without being alerted or being aware of. So Kiyoshi goes on to this date. Eventually, the date ends up souring, but eventually, I hope that Kiyoshi had gone on to get those figures for the guy to ultimately just be like, okay, well, at least you'll have these figurines. So, um, within the last bit of episodes, there's to be this cliffhanger that I, of course, had seen this show in the past, so I know how it's going to play out. Yeah. So, when we get into actual spoilers, I will actually break that part down too, because I had seen this show in the past. Like, I had seen the whole first season of it. It also is kind of stupid how they'd gone on to blur an item that eventually within the following episode, they just show what it is, and it's not what you think it is. It's not to be some adult toy of some kind. It's to actually just be a razor, which is stupid. Why blur that out then? Like, that's basically to just clickbait people into the show by you assuming a certain thing is going on, just for you to really go on and find out that it's just to be the guy's getting his head shaved. Whatever. How stupid is that? So, oh man, yeah, I thought the guy was gonna get, and no. Really, he wasn't gonna get what? He was gonna get shaved at it? How, anyways. But if anything, we come to find that whole shaving of the hair actually works out for the story anyways, because wig. But anyways, so, like, yeah, at least I'd gone on to spend my time watching this show to eventually probably have it do nothing. For some odd reason, it seems that views right now are hard to come by with the content that I'm putting up. And ultimately, I'll go on and still try to, in the future, go on and review more of the Resident Evil films, because it seems that since now, this movie of which that I already knew was going to be a thing, psychically, weirdly, strangely, I'm going to go on and try to finish up the Resident Evil movies in a very hopefully timely manner, while also going on and juggling all the other things that I try to either consistently do or eventually adding in other things that I'm sure everyone will be just so happy about, because some of it is to actually just be because YouTube told me to do it, so I'm doing it because I felt that it's a necessity for me to go on and need to keep getting the numbers up and up. Regardless of how kind of the numbers are fine anyways, like, I'm so grateful and just so happy that there are over 500 people now on this channel that have subscribed. Exactly timelining exactly when this episode is to be put out here, as if anyone is going to really care about that anyways. But thank you all for going on and watching Prison School, as I'm going to tag the out of this thing. I'm going to try to figure out how people can watch this video, because that's the horrible thing that I have to just need to do in order for people to go on and actually watch a thing on my channel at this point. But man, am I just so having to just be crafty here. Fuck. Anyways, so just having to me be way too blunt and way too honest and put my foot in my mouth all the time. So, with that said, I'm going to go on and go in depth about these 4 episodes and go way too much in detail. Well, not really. I'm going to probably be rushing through this anyways. So, with that said, again, if you have not yet gone on and figured out where you can go on and watch this show for absolutely free and not need my graphic detail of words, of which, unless you just can nut off of that anyways, which is cool. I appreciate that. I hope for that. But anyways, check out a app called Hanime. That's anime with an H, or ultimately another app called Anime KAI. So yeah, so check out those apps. People watch this show for free. So now I'm going to need to go into more further graphic detail into the horrors of the show, because it's so horror. It's so horrible. It's so yeah, right. Like, freaking, like, get more disturbing, show. Come on, like, throw some steak on it. Like, you really need to go on and figure out how beating people up is less of a thing going on in this show, because 70% of it is people just getting their clock cleaned, and I mean that in a way of people getting beaten up in the show, not anything else that is to be kind of taken away from clock cleaned. Anyways, so with that said, let's pause here because it is about that time yet again to, of course, go into spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about that time again to spoil these episodes. Let me know your exact thoughts on Prison School. I'm sure you thought this show was weird and creepy and didn't probably understand why I was to go on and review it, because feasibly at some points in time I am to really honestly not actually need to do a show like this, but if anything, I can do a show like this. I had gone on to heavy list already put together of things I was going to put upon the show. Prison School, in my mind, just randomly popped in there, and so I'm going on and fulfilling that obligation of which that I had made a list in the past to eventually do upon this channel. Slowly but surely, in an arduous process of, I'm sure, a lot of people going on and rationally should at this point probably could complain about how slow these projects are going. But if anything, ultimately, I'm to say that I think the choices that I'm making right now are actually pretty clever. Like, I think they're actually pretty good. Like, I really could go on and justify making worse decisions, but I just don't really want to try to do so. Like, I'm also trying to find movies that are lesser known and have a bit of fun with checking those out for the first time because I've never seen them before. And also trying to find movies that are to really very much more so be films that it seems are to be things that I find in a thrift store that people are going and say that these movies are to be very expensive for some odd reason. Where I'm to be like, well, I can figure out a way to mitigate that because I can go on and find an app that I can watch freaking whatever. So how about I go on and I make those eBay and Amazon prices a little bit less with just my movie knowledge of way of getting to these things and having an app instead of you needing to go on and pay your dollarinos. I'll save you your money. I'll save you going into subscriptions. I'll save you from that because I'm to be a good person and I want to help you, the mass number of actual physical people out, because that's who I am. So, with that said, let's go on and let's pause here and let's get the nitty gritty details of every one of these bit of episodes. Let's pause here. All right, the deets, everybody, the deets. So, the beginning of this show starts off with what looks like a railroad spike being rammed into the ground by a sledgehammer. That's what it kind of looks like to me. Then all of a sudden we have a number of logs that are to go on and just be dragged through this ground. Inevitably to have all of the prison-schooled boys be falling down to the ground, passing out of utter exhaustion. To really go on and have me be asking, what exactly are these guys doing? I don't quite understand. But anyways, we have Mika, who's to basically leave cleavage to the unimagination. Managed to go on is to really just so often feasibly just be a character that it's like, just look at her boobs, because that's all you're gonna go on and just be like, about. So, because again, leaving less to the imagination. So, as we come to find that Miko is to be stating about how these guys should not be taking a break right now, they're just utterly exhausted. We have Kiyoshi that is to go on and be a guy who always is to be arguing with people, and eventually he ends up getting a whip to the face because of that. This specific whip is to be one of those stick whips, not to be one of those rope-like whips. So, eventually trying to escalate the pain of these characters, even though they like the pain anyways. And they go on and they tell Kiyoshi, hey, yeah, shut up and don't go on and defend us. We want these women to beat the shit out of us anyways, because we're to go on and really enjoy it. And Kiyoshi's like, oh, okay, you guys are weird. But inevitably he's like, oh, okay, I guess I can get it. Like, if anything, like this is the only female interaction that you're probably gonna ever have with your life, so make it count. So, anyways, so we then cut to the chairman, the creepy guy that's to be a little bit of a perv because he goes on and has photos of butts. Oh man, the horror of that. Wow, that's got to be some risque thing going on there, that we have to figure out more of. That this guy just likes butts and he cannot lie. Those other bros can't deny. So, uh, we go on to have this guy talking about how this is a prep college, and talking about all these things that'll go on and be completely lost by us as it is to be continued to be said. So the next thing that we actually do see here is a cafeteria scene. We'd come to find out that women are within inside this cafeteria, writhing within with their just, I'm sure, just desperation to want to meet up with a guy and share words with him, right? Not really. So we'd go on to have this cafeteria that is to start to give us these slapping of name tags of these characters, which we'll probably not go on and acknowledge anyways and forget who these characters are, because that will happen. But anyways, we would have these characters all at this lunch table or cafeteria, and we have Kiyoshi as they're to start talking about how they're finally now co-eds and there are girls within this college. I'm gonna make college sound like collage. You guys know what a collage is? That whole cloth thing that, yeah, like has a number of pictures and whatever. College. That's just the way I like to pronounce things. Collage. So uh we have Kiyoshi that goes on to eventually want to speak to these women because he's new here. And so when he goes on and he does so, he's like, hey, yeah, I'm new here. And then that's basically all that he has really left to say in this think tank of what to just go on and just be like, yeah, new, new guy. Yeah, new, no. Anyways, so these girls are to be off put by Kiyoshi, who's just a new guy, and like, if anything, they're not going to go on and thrust themselves onto this guy after finding out how new he is. So they leave. So the guys had a thing going, a bet going almost, that this guy would miserably fail. And then he returns back to the table. It's like, yeah, I told you. So we would then go on to have the girls who are talking about this weird underground student council. What is that, like double secret awesome probation or whatever, like the Animal House people had gotten at one point? And eventually we'd go on to follow whenever there is to be some seemingly college theme kind of going on. There is to always be the double super awesome delicious probation or whatever that is to be from Animal House that they just kind of steal and take from. And also they should go on and remember always the Kevin Bacon part of that show or part of that movie where Kevin Bacon says, please, can I have another? Yeah, that is really be the takeaway of that show. That is really be the takeaway of that movie. Animal House. So, uh, so the girls are going on and they're talking about this underground student council, but then eventually they come to find that a crow is to be nearby. So they're like, hey, let's not go on and let's talk near that crow, because we'd come to find that crows are to be uh things that the president is to go on and have. And weirdly, there's some weird thing with these crows and this president. It's strange. Because I guess evidently the president is to not really have a man or a woman or a goat in her life. So eventually she's just really just jonesing of these crows. As well as also, the president is to be connected to the chairman because she is to be his daughter. And the president will go on and find how creepy and weird and how pervy that this guy is to have so many photos of these women's butts because he cannot not deny them, for how he is just to have this fixation. Anyways, so here's where we cut to Kiyoshi, who is to have dropped his eraser, I'm sure on purpose, right? It wasn't accidental at all. So Kiyoshi goes on and drops his eraser, assuming that somebody's gonna go on and think him weird because he's down on the ground trying to find his eraser. And I'm sure a lot of women will probably think, hey, you're trying to look up my skirt now, aren't you? You perv! Anyways, so Kiyoshi goes on to pick up his eraser to eventually have Chio, or at some points it is to sound like Geo, but it's Chio? Chio. I'm going to keep pronouncing it as if to really just be godsmacked by this name and just befuddled by it, and otherwise to be like, give me some of that Chio. But also, if you guys remember the Big Bang Theory episode where Sheldon goes on and says, Geo, Geo, while he's supposedly drunk on geometry, yeah, and he's kind of going on and speaking the book really loud at night, and Leonard goes on and like, hey, yeah, you were reading really loud last night. Sheldon's like, hey, like, anyways, so as well as also telling Sheldon goes on and tells Stephen Hawking that he likes girls now. Anyways, so but back to the show. We have Kiyoshi that is to go on and take his eraser away, and then find that this girl is just on him. And I mean on him. Because all of a sudden, since she finds out that he's a sumo fan, they just start talking endlessly about it. And Kiyoshi is to have mistakenly had this eraser because of his mother being a sumo wrestling fan. So he again goes on and is to rattle off anything that he has to remember that his mother is to have said about it to try to win this girl over. Because hopefully he has to actually want to be with this girl instead of having it to just be that it's like, oh man, I'm going to use anything to my thing that I am to go on and have just to be able to talk to this woman deliciously. Anyways, so we now come to find that Kiyoshi's friend circle, which is to be the guys of which that are eventually going to go in prison with him, are to go on and ask where exactly Kiyoshi is because they don't have exactly the same classes. At one point, one of them goes on and says, yeah, he's probably with a girl, and it's like, no, he probably is to be more likely to have an upset stomach. We'll come to find that that is to be a consistent thing going on within the show, that these guys have to go on and talk about bowel movements and whether or not people have bad stomachs, and that seems to be a repetitious thing that of which that they go on and they talk about within this show. Oddly enough. So, anyways, and they talk about the infirmity of the bowels. Anyways, so as finally Kiyoshi is to have finally made his way to the group, and they've been done talking about explosive diarrhea, we then come to find that Kiyoshi is to meet up with the group within this dorm, and here's where they go on and they plot away their peeping plan, their tomfoolery, their I want to go on and I want to see a woman naked because god dang it, like why not? Because it's a Tuesday night or whatever. Like, these guys are just really hard up because, again, an adult site or a search engine or rated R film is to not be available to them within this world of things. Anywho, so they go on, they plot away this plan of peeping, and so we would have them go in depth about the woman's lady parts, and at one point we have Nizu, I believe that's how his name is pronounced. I'm going to be butchering names all up inside of this review, so stay tuned. So Nezu is to be the character that goes on and is to be coughing up blood consistently, because we come to find that this guy is to have these strange canker sores or something of some kind that is to lead him to just consistently cough. He can't help it. So hopefully it all works out in the coughing end. But also, I guess that just makes this character unique to this show. So it's kind of funny here because these guys are to be kind of confused. As immediately this guy starts coughing off blood, they're immediately going with, "Oh my god, he's going to turn into a zombie!" And then Ando, who's to be the more heavier set character, I apologize for saying heavier set character, but I feel that it's to be the only way in which it can go on and rationally go on and figure out a way to explain who this character is. I can't breathe. So Ando is to go on and eventually explain that this guy isn't turning, that he's just coughing because of these issues that he's having medically. So we then cut to the guys going on in what looks like either leather because of the glare, or just these shiny black costumes. They thrust their hands in, and then they go on and they run off to concoct their succulent plan. So, as I like to use the word succulent, I hope that you are to go on and enjoy it too. I'm sure you hate it. So, but also, just you're questioning your enjoyment of it. I'm sure you are, right? No? Great. I'm going to keep using it anyways. So, still, roll the dice. Anyways, I went too long with that joke. So, we'd come to find that the guys are going to go on and they are going to try to make it to the showers, that it seems that immediately when they connect it with a certain class, Kyoshi's like, well, wait a minute, maybe Chio will go on and be discovered in the buff, in the nude, and I do not want to go on and have the rest of my friends see that sight. But if anything, of course, Kyoshi would like to see it himself. But, because I'm sure he would. But if anything, he wants to be a gentleman and hope that his one possible love is not going to be nuded out here for the guys to see, because he's weirdly some kind of gentleman. Anyways, so we would then go on to have these guys make their way to said rooftop, and we have at points where Kyoshi is to try to figure out ways for these guys to not go along with this. And as it seems that they can't quite find easily ways of doing this whole thing, then Kyoshi's like, okay, well, let's give up then. Like, let's go. Like, and then they go on and they figure it out. And then he's like, oh, shit. Like, okay. So they go on and they figure out how they can use multiple phones to then dangle over these windows by doing this video call. So they go on and they start dangling these phones over this window, and so they start to watch the feed. So I really like Kyoshi at some points where like there's to be this one point in the episode where we'd find that Gakuto is to kind of find out what he's doing. So Kyoshi is to kind of grab this fork. And it's like, now I have to do what I have to do. I have to kill this guy. And then come to find out, Gakuto is like, hey man, kind of steady your fork there. Like, I'm going to go and I'll help you out. Like, I know what you're doing, and like, I'm willing to give you a hand. And then Kyoshi's like, oh, okay, cool. So, anyways, so at some point the string of this phone ends up going seemingly south, and here's where the phone eventually falls within the room of which that these women are showering. The guys would be, of course, fairly upset, and they're to go on and realize, yeah, like, if anybody is to find out that this phone is to have this video feed, they will be found out. Also, they will be found out because this is Kyoshi's phone. how will Kiyoshi's phone have landed into the shower room? So now Kiyoshi is be forced to slide uh, down into this window, hoping to retrieve this phone. Kiyoshi does then go on and retrieve said phone, and eventually there is to be a woman, Kiyoshi, that makes her way within inside this shower room. Eventually, it seems that Kiyoshi is to luck out because this woman is to be blind as a bat because she is to seemingly not have her glasses on her or contacts, or eventually anything of which that will go on and determine, hey, yeah, this girl does not look like a girl, but if anything, like, let's keep talking to her anyways. So, as soon as Kiyoshi turns around, he is to see this girl and is to, of course, be mortified, assuming that he is to get caught until the further this girl starts talking and realizes that, yeah, she's blind as a bat. So he's like, okay, I'll just go on and undress, put a towel on, and look like a woman, because it seems that Kiyoshi ends up consistently getting confused for that. So, uh, Kiyoshi also starts to see his girl undressing. And so he then goes on to undress himself. Chio ends up grabbing Kiyoshi by the hand because this is to kind of replicate what I had gone on and seen in Sorority Boys. If you guys don't know that Michael Rosenbaum movie, of which that I've seen, at some point we have the girls that kind of do these shower scenes, and also the guys eventually go on and help the girls actually out, and they befriend them, and like it actually is a pretty interesting movie, even though also it is to just kind of be the whole playing up of these guys being women. Yeah, of course. So, because I end up seeing freaking everything in my life, everything, way too much of everything. So the guys go on and they start to realize that Kiyoshi is getting away with this. And so they're like, well, hey, should this guy be facing this alone? Should we join him? And so eventually there is to be a quick bit of nude that all these guys get into, hoping that eventually, I guess, that they will not be found out by. But then all of a sudden we start to see these crows hovering above these guys. I guess they're to go on and probably look at their toucan berries as giant worms, and they go on and they seemingly start attacking these guys, going of course for their junk, their nethers, their down belows. So we then would go on and have Kiyoshi that eventually again is with Chio here, and the girl that she thought was um Kiyoshi has now arrived. So now Chio is like, oh, well, like, since now this girl is here, who is the person next to me? So she goes on and starts asking who this person is, to eventually come to find that a woman is to be thrusting into the shower because, man, is she thrusting in there, and explaining about how eventually the boys had gotten caught for peeping, and so everybody needs to run out of this room to find out what exactly is going on. Hopefully they're fully clothed, or hopefully they're not, because eventually that'll lend to me going on and having enjoyment upon the show. Sure. So, I so the vice president goes on to find these boys and tie them to these wooden stake-like things, and is to eventually flog and punish them, because of course she is. Going on and obviously going for the nuts because these guys were trying to get a boner anyways. So we then would go on to have Kiyoshi think that he's going to be in the clear. He goes on and sneaks out of uh, the 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 bath area, thinking like, oh, he's gotten away with this. And then eventually he will go on and be thrusted in the face of this underground guidebook, and will have knowledge of who the student council secretary is, which is Hannah, which is this girl, the vice president of which will probably either be on the thumbnail, because of course she will, Miko, The girl of which that is to leave cleavage to the unimagination, of which that is to be the best way to describe her. And then, last but not certainly least, there'll be the discovery who the president is of this underground student council, which is to be uh, Mari, the Crow Master. So, the next thing we see is Mari dragging Kiyoshi and tossing him along with all the other guys, getting tied up to the stake here. We now have all the girls talking about how these guys are pervs and that they're totally gross. Come on, like, this is current day. We all know that we probably are to have some fantasies and weird, goofy things about ourselves, but then eventually also, yeah, they are pretty gross, right? They are like, shun them, yeah, just like bashoo them, just boo, boo, guys, for doing this horrible act because you couldn't have gone on and figure out there are adult sites or a search engine and a certain kind to find things or a rated R film that you could go. How easy could this have been to avoid this jail prison time and all these women going on and shunning these guys for how much they go on and they enjoy the female form, right? Just how horrible are they? So at least they'd probably be a little bit more experienced in probably the female love-ins than maybe some other guys would. But it doesn't matter. So we then go on and talking about the violating natures of the crimes of which that these guys have committed, and Mari speaks them all out. While these guys are now all in their black and white clothing, and they are to be chained together. So they'd all come to find it that they are going to be enrolled into this prison school to serve 1 month. Oh, the horror. So they go on and they talk about how these guys should not go on and escape, or otherwise they will have things added to their sentence and all kinds of other things. So, and their sentence will be extended for another month. Because, of course, this is a normal prison. If anything, these guys could be considered lucky because, if anything, in normal circumstances, they would get expelled, but instead they're going on and they're being imprisoned. So, getting the crap beat out of them is to, I guess, be the consolation prize of their endless suffering. But if anything, not really suffering to these guys because they enjoy it. So, if anything, they're just asking for more desperately. And eventually, the president will go on and figure that out and be like, oh, okay, we'll just bring Hannah in that goes on and roundhouse kicks people and hurts them even more. When eventually there are to be just circumstances of these guys enjoying getting punished by this original vice principal character. Because also this girl is to be wearing jorts and is to, I guess, be more concealing of her wardrobe. So, anyways. So, we then push on here and have them get into their early deeds. So, the first thing of which that these guys are going to have to do is build a barricade. We go on to have Gakuto, that is, we talk about his Three Kingdom studies, and eventually we of course have Miko, that is to haul off and beat this guy for how stupid he is, and be like, no, you're gonna go on, you're gonna build this barricade, and that's all that you should be caring about. So, and this first beating is to go on and establish that it's like, hey guys, if you kind of talk out of line or if you kind of contradict us, then yeah, you'll just get freaking hauled away and get the claw cleaned out of you. So here's where then we go on and see these guys that are making this barricade. They're thrusting these hammers, and we off in the distance see Chio and Kiyoshi's look off in the distance, be like, oh, she's watching me. She's watching. So we have at one point where one of the prisoners, who of which I'm going to try to go out of my way to not know every single one of these guys' names. But if anything, one of the prisoners is to go on and be Shingo. Shingo is to be trying to get some water, and eventually he gets slapped away from it. And shortly thereafter that, we then would go on to have the rest of the team start to get beaten up here. We have Nezu that eventually is to go on and talk to Miko, and he eventually goes on and starts coughing up blood. Miko is to kind of be upset that this guy is coughing up blood, asking why exactly he goes on and he does that, and eventually hauls off and just hits him or smacks him and has him fall to the ground. Ando is fairly upset that this woman is going on and beating him down because of the health issue that he's going to go on and have. Nezu, about the coughing up blood. So Ando goes on and covers up Nezu, and Miko, because Ando is doing this, she goes on and hauls off and beats the shit out of him. Eventually going on and spitting on Ando, and at some point there seems to be a bit of residue upon this woman's foot, and so Ando is now having to lick her foot clean. Sure. So we have Kiyoshi that's trying to convince Miko that these guys do not deserve this kind of treatment, and eventually Miko is to say to Kiyoshi, take her hands off me. And as they make their way to the cafeteria to get some luncheon, we then have Kiyoshi that is to apologize to everybody and is to say that these people have been treating them really hard, and he is to say that all of this is to be all for one and one for all, kind of like the Musketeers. So the group goes on and eventually tells Kiyoshi, it's like, hey, maybe the next time you go out there, maybe you should shut up and maybe not say anything, or maybe not help any of us out. And Kiyoshi's like, well, why? And they're like, well, we like getting beaten up, like we enjoy it. And Kiyoshi's like, oh, okay, so and he ends up going on and having his eyes roll in the back of his head, and he's like, these guys are the worst. So now, we then cut to Miko that seemingly is to be sitting on top of Kiyoshi. And she, of course, is disciplining him. So I guess, yeah, I'm sure all these guys are getting a little bit of enjoyment out of it. The further and further that the president is going on and starting to notice this, that they're starting to get enjoyment out of this punishment, then the president is like, okay, well, it's now realizing that this whole discipline thing of Mika going on and hurting these guys isn't working out. So if anything, let's bring Hannah in. And so Hannah comes in and she's wearing these jorts and she's all cute and whatever. And she's all nice about things. And so Hannah comes in and she goes on to ask all the prisoners to go on and find these 4-leaf clovers. And so Hannah coming in is actually pretty funny just because of the tone of her voice for how very high pitched it is. And at some point, there's one thing where she goes on and like, do you want to die? And I thought it to be freaking hilarious. I was laughing. I was like, oh my god, this thing is just like, Hannah is just a character that is just to be so hilarious. in my opinion, because of the thing that she just says at some certain points. So these guys go on and they try to get to this four-leaf clover, and while they're also doing that, they find off in the distance that they find these women that are basically wearing like bra tops and bikinis, or almost bikini level clothing, and they are just gawking at these women, going on in what looks like running laps. So we would go on and have Gakuto that is to be talking about the milk and honey of these women, and is to uh, have Hannah be like, "Hey, what are you guys talking about?" So here's where we go on and we have Shingo that is to talk to Hannah and calls her like Tootsie or Hun or something like that. And Hannah takes great offense to that, and she hauls off and takes the end of her leg and smashes it onto Shingo's head like a vicious chop. Shingo, of course, goes down, and so now Miko has to go on and explain to the rest of the group here that Hannah is to be very well trained in martial arts. And so now we have Chio with the rest of this girl group, who I will not take the time to know who they all are because I could not be bothered. Because eventually, like, these people aren't in the show enough. So Chio is playing this game with the girls, and eventually they're talking about how these boys are getting what they deserve. And Chio is to go on and be like, well, I don't know about that. Like, I don't know, like, if all the guys can be all bad, right? And we have one of the other girls saying to Chio, it's like, well, did you just say something? Like, are you really into one of these guys? So we now cut back to Hannah. So as these guys have gone on to collect a good amount of four-leaf clovers, but then she would find out that there's one singular three-leaf clover, she then hauls off and chops this table in half, forcing the guys to then go look for more four-leaf clovers. So, and then also she goes on and hauls away and beats the shit out of the guys, because again, we just have just so much of this going on here. So we have Gakuto that is to go on and be like, I'm just not into this kind of violence. And then he gets hauled off and roundhouse kicked. And then we continue to see the rest of the guys that are all beaten up and bloody. So now we push on and have the guys all try to find four-leaf clovers. And eventually they seem to not be able to find any of them. They find one, and eventually the guys have to justify that them as a group is a four-leaf clover, and if anything, they should not be harmed because they are to be four-leaf clovers, because they're four guys that are all to be together, and that should be a four-leaf clover because they can't find any more of them. But anyways, while that's going on, Kiyoshi is to have found this bird. He picks up this bird and goes out of his way to climb onto this tree to put the bird back in the nest. Conveniently, Kiyoshi will find there being a window next to this same nest of tree, and Kiyoshi's to be like, is to be looking at this girl, and it's Chio, and Chio is to be like, oh, like, I guess you guys can't be all bad now, can you? Because you're going on, you're putting a bird back into this nest, so you're not that bad. So, Hiyoshi is kind of mortified here because he has to go on and talk to this girl, and he hasn't said of whether or not he had gone on to be peeping or apologized for it or anything, specifically to this girl, and he wants to win her over. So, but Chio was convinced that this guy wasn't to have been a person peeping, even though really he was. He probably didn't get much of any kind of real peeping, but if anything, he got closer to a show than any of the other guys did. So after Chio is to start leaving, we have Kiyoshi that is to yell to Chio that at some point the two of them are going to go on and they're going to go to a wrestling match together, a wrestling event together. And so eventually they're going to go on and do that on the weekend. Anyways, so now we cut to Hannah, that it seems that cannot go on and hold herself from going on and relieving herself of the urine of which that is going to flow from her bate. So Hannah goes on and is to not be able to find conveniently a restroom or porta john anywhere near this area. So she goes on within this woods and is to find a place where she can go on and relieve herself. While that is going on, Kiyoshi is to be in a tree above her, almost in bird's eye view, bird's eye view, of this girl going on and relieving herself. And then the episode ends with a cliffhanger of what's going to happen. So the next episode goes on and has Kiyoshi fall from the tree, and of course he spots this girl peeing. The liquid is to be flowing very next to Kiyoshi's freaking head. That's how close he is. Eventually, to be utterly so close to Hannah that it scars her for life. The vice president is to be running her way in to find out what is going on, and Hannah is in utter shock. We then cut to Kiyoshi making his way back to the cell with the boys, and they start talking about it. They are to be just so amazed of Kiyoshi, they go on and they take him and thrust him in the air, like as if this is some weird, goofy sports celebration that he won something, or I have no idea. It's some weird, goofy thing like that. So now we cut to the board chairman, who's to be a really, really creepy dude, right? Yeah, he's to be so just, oh, that guy. Ah, how dare he have pictures of butts because he cannot lie. Anyways, so the chairman is to be going on here and speaking to Mari here. I'm sure that the chairman does have a lavishly long stretch of a name of which that I could probably continue to pronounce here. But chairman is definitively to be one person within the show, so I think I can just go on and just say chairman and have to not actually have to pronounce this guy's name, because I really could care less. And plus also, even though the cast list of this thing is to be very thin, I'm going to try as best as possible to make this even thinner, because feasibly, I'm to just go on and be like, you know what, I have a life. Let's try to rattle this out. So, we would go on to eventually, consistent within this, having the chairman having to say these one-off word things that are to go on and just be so hilariously funny to me. But if anything, Mari goes on and talks about how the boys are guilty of what they've done, and that any other school would deal an expulsion for them. And Mari is to have been upset with her father because she had been completely against co-ed schools. So Mari needs to go and talk to her father and explain how these guys are criminals in some ways. But if anything, also this guy's have a perverse nature of himself, of butt pictures. So, saying that these guys are just going through raging hormones, they're coming of age, and maybe kind of give them a bit of slack, even though also the crime should, I guess, fit the punishment also. Not saying that these guys should have completely gotten away with it, but also, like, these guys are getting beaten the shit out of, so when is this cruel and unusual punishment? But anyways, so Here's where the chairman goes on and says to Mari that these guys at least need to get weekends off. Maybe they are to be religious. Maybe they are to go on and really just have worked hard enough and getting the crap beat out of them Monday through Friday. So if anything, give them the weekends off. So Mari then walks off, and we then come to find that Miko is to be taking this baton now because her hand and legs weren't just good enough to smack onto Gakuto's head. Going on and asking why that strike was to have gone on and happened. So this point we would go on to just have Miko that is just striking these guys just because they aren't either asking questions or not going on and raising their hand to ask questions and get more details about what's going on. So again, just figuring out a way how to punish these guys further. So Miko here would go on to explain about how Hana is to be not to be with them because of the traumatic event that someone had saw her peeing by accident. Because eventually this guy just stumbles out of this tree and sees this girl peeing, and horrified that event was to have been. Correct? Yes, it is. To have been horrified to have seen that event. Again, other shows are a lot more tame than this, or a lot of shows are much more raunchy and weird than this. But if anything, like, we just still have to say that this show is weird. Because I'm to go on and say that this show is imaginary and animated and like, really, if this show was a real true story or a live action thing, I would go on and feel differently about this show. Believe me, I would. You would hear the tone of my voice being a person that'd be like, wow, this is to have really truly happened. Oh, wow, well, then I would have a different spin on the show. But I'm not, because all of this is to be imagination. So, so Mari makes her way to Miko and talking about furlough, which is to basically be liberty, which for those of you that have never heard of a military thing like that, we would go on to find that eventually at some point the military goes on and has these things called liberties, which is really just like breaks of time where they would go on and be able to see their family or see whoever the heck, and maybe a goat, I don't know. But anyways, so so all the guys are actually excited about them being able to get the weekend off, and then because Kiyoshi is to realize, oh yeah, I'm going to get 3 hours off. Great, I'm going to go on and be able to see Chio, and we'll go on and we'll have that date. It'll perfectly work out. And all the guys are actually just really excited about this, and they're happy. So eventually, because of that happiness, we then go on and have Mario's like, oh, well, you know what? I'm not liking that these guys are happy. So eventually she goes on and eventually changes her mind. We also have Hana that brings up the underground student guidebook. And they showcase how the book is kind of counterintuitive. So all of a sudden, Nezu is to be shoving Kiyoshi, and Kiyoshi's kind of upset about this. Like, hey man, why'd you shove me for? And we have Nezu that mentions about how Kiyoshi had almost stepped on these ants. And then Kiyoshi's like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, I didn't know. I didn't see. Come to find out, Nezu is just really liking ants. And eventually he'll go on and ask for an ant farm when he's in prison, because he just really likes ants. Eventually the guys will go on and they'll start asking for things, and eventually some of them will be denied. But I guess if it's to be stuff that kind of connects with school stuff, then eventually they'll think about it. Anywho, so Mari goes on, the president makes her way back uh to her father's desk as he is to be given the guidebook. And all of a sudden, there ends up having this guidebook hitting this mouse to reveal that there is to actually be a way of which to find inappropriate images online, on websites, on things of that nature. So, because eventually the chairman is looking upon it himself when this computer is to be turned on. So Mari, just disgusted by the scum of her father, is to then go back to these men and eventually change her mind about the weekend. Because of all of Kiyoshi is thinking about is his date with Chiyo. So Mari comes back, changes her mind, states that they are not to get any furlough whatsoever. And now Kiyoshi is to be very upset, hoping that they change their mind. And so now Kiyoshi is rattling through his mind any way possible to get out of this, going on and in a funny way, talking about, hey, like, could I mention that I have a sick family member? No, they're not going to give a shit. Should I mention that my stomach hurts? No, they're not going to give a about that either. So, Kiyoshi is just in utter tears and just upset. And as Kiyoshi is to come to find this anthole near him, he's to think, oh, I can just break out then, because that's what I want to do. So, the guys all get out of their prison cells and they end up going on into roll call. And they make their way to this lunch table. They start cleaning this bathroom. They start walking through what looks like an almost desert, but it's actually their college. And we have at one point where Kiyoshi is to take this wagon full of trash and to try and get rid of it. So, as Kiyoshi makes his way to what looks like a shed, eventually within the shed he goes on to notice that there's a way to kind of be hidden here. Kiyoshi is to start to carve up this big, huge, massive hole that he's going to go on and sneak away through so he can get the heck out of there. So, as Kiyoshi is to carve up this hole and then walk away, all of a sudden he ends up getting this glaring light in his face that is coming from Chiyo. So, Chiyo is to try to throw this piece of paper to Kiyoshi for him to not to be able to go on and receive said note. So then, Kiyoshi goes on and writes this note on this two thing of paper to go on and explain. And luckily they are to go on and actually explain this via verbally, because I'm like, dude, I can't read that. I can't read that language. I'm sorry. So, Kiyoshi is explaining what they're gonna do for this date, to go to the sumo tournament, and Kiyoshi is to agree to them doing that on Saturday. So she's to go on and say, I'll see you soon, and he repeats that back to her. So Kiyoshi's like, yeah, I gotta do whatever I can to break out at this point. So as Gakuto is getting a boot in the face, we have Kiyoshi that comes back with this wagon. And also gets, I think, a boot to the butt. I don't know, a boot to the rumpus. So Kiyoshi is to say to Gakuto that he apologizes for him getting hurt earlier. That he goes on and gives him a bit of his chicken, because he feels to blame for that bit of beating up of. Gakuto is to just be fine about it, and so here's where Gakuto is to have found the note that Chiyo had thrown, and then Kiyoshi's like, oh my god, did he read the note? Does he know what's going on? Oh my god, am I discovered? Am I gonna have to put a fork to this guy and murder him, and so that way I can go on and I can go on this date because I'm sneaking out, I'm trying to break out, I'm trying to get out of this prison, I'm trying to go on and I'm trying to get some sweet loving from this woman because I've gone on and not been able to been so close to a woman in so long. It's been so long. Anyways, why I'm going on to this and just rattling off words and saying things, thank you for going on watching this video if you've been here this long. Why you are here to be who've been here this long, you can watch this show. I appreciate you going on and hearing whatever is to be prattling off within my mouth of words that I'm going on and saying. Because a lot of times I go on and I don't really plan this very well. And also I'd gone on to watch this the night before, and I'm going on and trying to figure out what all was to have happened within the show right now, because I'm going on and trying to just say continuous words so that way I can figure out what I'm going to say next. Anyways, so we now have this shower scene. And so we have Gakuto that is to be mentioning about how sumo wrestlers tend to go on and massage one another's backs, clean one another's backs, because of course they're being too big and them being able to not get to their backs very well. So immediately when Kiyoshi is to hear that from Gakuto, he's like, oh, he knows. He knows. Like, he is to have read that message. So we have Kiyoshi that's like, well, I'm not a sumo wrestler, so I'll pass. So he walks off. So we now have Miko and Hana making their way back here, and Hana's like, hi, fellas, and then immediately goes on and looks at Kiyoshi. It's like, she's still to be traumatized by that whole scene, and the two of them are just like just. There is also to have been the possibility in my mind that both Hana and Kiyoshi will somehow end up with one another, or eventually she'll get something out of him, because that seems to be kind of leading up in this show, that the more and more weird we find out that Hana really is, the more that there could just be a possibility that the two of them are going to end up together. I think at some point later, like, there is just some thing of which that they're to kind of like kiss one another or something like that. They're like, there's some stuff of flashes that kind of goes on in the show and it happens, but then again also there's to be this one point where Kiyoshi is like lip locking with Hana, and it goes on for like an absurd amount of time, and like the whole entire time, like, Kiyoshi, I think, is having this like inner monologue, I think, from what I remember from this show. Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. Or maybe I'm not remembering that correctly. That happens in somewhere later in the show, not within these 4 episodes. So, because again, Hana goes on and clean clocks Gakuto, because man, does this guy get beaten up more so than the other people. Like, share the wealth. Like, eventually have Ando just get beaten the crap out of, because, in all honesty, this is to be the guy that probably has more he's probably be a guy that probably won't feel it as much as the other guys will. Let's just say that. But also, like, I don't think that he's gotten nearly beaten enough in the show. It's true. Anyways, so because again, we'll find out that Hana beats the out of him later. She knees him in the face at some point soon here. So, here we have Gakuto that is pretending to be a sumo wrestler, and we have Hana that is to be upset that Gakuto is to be pretending to be a sumo wrestler, and that's why she knees him in the face. So now Kiyoshi is to realize that Gakuto is on him, like he knows. And so Kiyoshi is like, well, what am I going to have to do to silence this guy? Like, what am I going to do? What am I going to have to do? I may have to kill him. So Kiyoshi is digging away with this fork, this hole, and then uh, Hana is to go on and ask Kiyoshi, hey, what are you doing back there? And Kiyoshi's like, well, I'm just sorting the trash into piles. So now Hana goes on and asks Kiyoshi, did you tell any of the guys what happened? Did you go on and boast about you going on and seeing me in the on all my glory and what have you while I was peeing? Like, did you tell them? Did you? Where were you on October 15th? Doing nothing, I swear, nothing. Sure you didn't. Anyways, so so Hannah's going on and interrogating Kiyoshi, assuming that he had gone on to tell the guys about seeing her, but he never did. He kept it a secret. And the more and more that Hannah is trying to get this out of him, the more he's like, no, I didn't tell them anything. Why would he anyways? Most of the time it seems that he is to be beyond the whole peeping thing, to be a gentleman. And yeah, uh like I would go on to go to the gentlemanly conduct conbook handbook thing, and just to be going on and being like, yeah, a gentleman never tells. Anyways, uh so Hannah goes on and eventually is to want to be even now with Kiyoshi. In all honesty, you would think before this act would go on and happen, I think Hannah would go on and have some standards where she'd be like, okay, before I go on and I see you whip out your thing, like do some manscaping down there, go on and not have this be a hot and sweaty day. No, no, no. I want to go on and get peak uh, uh, peeing action and whatever. I want to see some highbrow. I want to see some Photoshop. I want to see some. Let's have it in the right light. Anyways, so just me being weird and funny here. So they go back into the shed, and so Hannah wants uh, Kiyoshi to whip his thing out so she can see him peeing. And so she goes on, and basically, this guy's schwanz is like right here, and she is like right there to it. And Kiyoshi's like, yeah, you're really close to this. And Hannah's like, well, you were pretty close to me when I was to go on and when I was to be peeing. So, as this is going on, and Kiyoshi is to not want to do this because I'm sure he's a shy peer, or maybe eventually he won't be, because eventually he'll be exploding all over Hannah at some point with one of these episodes. So, Gakuto is to help Kiyoshi out of this situation by going on and explaining how they need to return to work because there's a lot of things that they need to deal with. So Kiyoshi goes on and is to be very appreciative that Gakuto had kind of saved him there from him needing to whip it out and just pee in front of this girl. I guess this show could really be very strange. Anyways, sure. So, uh, so Gakuto goes back to the shed, and Kiyoshi is to go on and be like, oh, is Gakuto going to find my hole? Is he going to figure me out? Maybe I should go on and maybe I should do the only thing that I have left to do. And so, and everything building up to this is very hilarious. So, Kiyoshi goes on and pulls his fork out, and Gakuto goes on and says to Kiyoshi, hey, yeah, it's very clever of you for going on and digging this hole. And if anything, Kiyoshi, I do want you to break out. So if anything, I'm going to help you out. And I'm going to assist you in your daring escape. Kiyoshi's like, what? And so here's where Gakuto is to mention that he wants these figurines out of this deal, that he'll go on and he'll help him out in exchange for these figurines that are be at a very specific place for a limited time. It's a limited edition, special whatever figurine. So he's going to go on and he's going to bargain for this. But if anything, also, if this guy is going to be away for a good chunk of time, Gakuto is going to be the guy that is going to try and come up with reasons for why he's gone and assist him in every way possible. So, but also allowing Kiyoshi to go to his sumo tournament. So now we cut to Miko and the president going on and talking here. And we have the vice president that's just really strangely maybe attracted to maybe the president. Who knows? No idea. But anywho, we would go on to have Miko that is be talking about how sumo wrestlers go on and have people kind of clean their backs. And we have the president's going on and looking at Miko. It's like, well, what does that say to me? Do you think that I'm fat? And Miko's like, no. So, if anything, Miko is talking to the president about the whole days off thing, and eventually nothing comes out of it besides the whole insulting and what have you. So now we have the chairman that is going on and looking at the official Underground guidebook. Underground official? That sounds very strange. So, the chairman is to go on and realize that his computer is on and there is to be quite a sight to have seen from it. So, the chairman is to realize, oh, so my daughter is going on and repaying me for the screen of which that she is to go on and see. And how the cruelty of thy name is woman is just like, okay, whatever. Anyways, so so if anything, now Chairman is trying to hide his creepy fetish and go on and at some point need to take all these butt photos and bury them, into a hole at some point. We'll kind of see that at some point within these episodes. But then he'll go on and he'll still have this fetish. He'll go on and he'll have these photos, and so eventually he needs to get rid of them again. But yeah, the guy just really just is Sir Mix-a-Lot over there. So now we are to go on and have Gakuto and Kiyoshi talking. So we have Gakuto that is to mention about his Three Kingdom figures that is to have an expo going on, while also the sumo wrestling matches to be on that same similar day. Gakuto mentions to Kiyoshi, have you ever heard of the Three Kingdoms figures or the Three Kingdoms story? As if he's going to go on and explain all this story to him. Kiyoshi's like, dude, I don't have the time. Just, what do you want? Like, what do you want out of all this? So, so Gakuto goes on and plans this all out through this piece of paper, but they're gonna go on and get even more detailed about how Gakuto is gonna go on and help Kiyoshi escape, because eventually they'll come up with a different route to inevitably escape, because they'll have to go through this like pipeline like thing. or this ventilation shaft that is to be seemingly underneath the school grounds. Anyways, so that's what it kind of looks like to me, a ventilation shaft from underground, strangely. Anyways, so as Shingo goes on and interrupts the guys asking what exactly they're doing, they go on and they explain, oh yeah, we're just playing some game. And he's to go on like, oh, that's kind of boring, so he walks off. Shingo eventually will see that these guys are spending way too much time with one another, and he will oddly think that the both of them are to be gay and are to assess that these guys are going on and playing a little drop the soap a little bit too much. And Shingo will eventually go on and go to the rest of the guys and say that these guys are gay, but then they have no alternative to explain away what they're really doing, why they're spending so much time together. Yeah, that's what happens within the show. So, so Gakuto is to say that this guy is to go on and need exactly 3 hours, and Gakuto will come up with a way for them to strategically uh, achieve said 3 hours. So, and they're planning this all out to an absolute T. Uh, of where he's going to go on and and go and what have you. So and yeah, all right. So the next thing we cut to is the chairman and Mari, and they're walking past one another in the school. All of a sudden, we have the chairman accidentally drop a number of photos because, of course, he does, and Mari sees all of them, and Mari, of course, is to be disappointed by the way of which that uh, her, his her Mari is to just kind of be upset for how her father is to be a bit of a perv. So, if anything, I think the way I repetitiously say all this stuff could probably really affect me at some point in YouTube, but I could probably just be like, well, whatever. Like I think I probably got on to hold away so much of not saying stuff for such a long time that at some points I'm just getting annoyed by the fact that I can't just say anything in this YouTube of channel. Anyways, so or try to come up with secondary words or come up with some kind of things that just don't sound like it so I can figure out a more PC way of kind of talking about this. Maybe at some point, the further along I go onto this show, I'll figure out some kind of clever ways to kind of figure out how to be more PG so it doesn't affect me in the future. We'll figure that out. So, uh, so the next thing we see here is that the guys have to go on and figure out a task that will force them into the area near the hole that will keep them into that area uh, during this very specific window of time. So what happens is the guys end up getting this large saw out and start to carve their way uh, at this little shed. So what happens here is that Kiyoshi is to mention that this card is full, and then Miko allows him to go on and uh, go to the shed. What happens next is that Gakuto and Kiyoshi are having this argument which is to be very choreographed or is to be very scripted out, because the whole time Kiyoshi is not a good actor. And so he goes on and says, "You need to calm down." And uh, Gakuto is calling him an oaf. And yeah, also later on, we have Gakuto that's trying to go on and insult this guy, and he's basically rapping the whole entire time, and it's hilarious. And you could tell that he's just ripping off this whole entire rapping song, and I thought that was freaking funny. But anyways, so uh, Gakuto is to mention about how Kiyoshi is to have a pummeling that's long overdue. They start to grab one another. All of a sudden, Hana gets in the mix here, and eventually, here is when the cabin all falls over. Because eventually, Hana gets in the mix. She goes on and strikes one of the guys, and eventually, the cabin falls over after that. Hana goes on to blame the two guys for having this cabin all fall over, even though really it's actually to have been her to have caused all this. So, and even Kiyoshi will try to go on and convince Miko that it's like, no, that's not how it went down. But of course, they won't believe them because they're the prisoners, and they'll get knee to the groin for their troubles. So here's where Miko goes on and has this stick whip thing that she whips out, and she thrusts her butt into one of the guy's faces, and then goes on and whips the other guy. So we have the prisoners that are all going on and watching this sight, and we then have Miko that is talking about rebuilding the shed. So the two guys are going on and being so happy about how well this whole plan had worked out, and how they had cut the cabin to force this destruction to inevitably work. Flawless victory. What is this, Mortal Kombat? So, uh, now, like, these guys are thinking that they're going to build this shed as we push on here. They think that they're going to push. They're thinking that they're going to rebuild this shed, and no one's going to watch them. But if anything, they'd be wrong, because Kiyoshi needs to sneak out so he can prepare to do what he's going to do this weekend. So he needs a bit of prep time. So come to find out, Hana is to be watching over these guys the whole entire time, and so now they realize that since Hana is guarding them, there's no way for Kiyoshi to sneak out and prepare himself for getting out of here. So eventually, what inevitably happens is Kiyoshi is to be given tea by Hana because she wants, of course, Kiyoshi to pee in front of her. So at some point, Kiyoshi is to doing the pee pee dance, and eventually Gakuto is to find out about this. And so once he goes on and finds out that he's doing this dance, then he is to point this out to Hana that it's like, hey, this guy really needs to go to the bathroom. And Kiyoshi's like, no, don't tell her that. So uh also there's a moment where Gakuto is to hope that this girl is to be some history buff, which she's not, and she hauls off and just punches him in the stomach. So uh so Kiyoshi runs to the bathroom stall. Hana jumps over the stalls like, okay, like let's do this. Like I want to see you pee. So as Hana is thrusting away Kiyoshi's hands And eventually there is to be Hana that grabs Kyoshi's hands away, unzipping his fly, and hoping that eventually she will be getting what she wants out of this. So Kiyoshi does go on and eventually is to finally relieve himself, and he relieves himself all over Hana. All of a sudden, the next thing we see is this cry of screaming. Uh, Miko is to overhear this cry of screaming, so she goes on to find out where the origins of this is coming from. All of a sudden, Miko is to find Hana, and Hana is to only mention that she was to have gone on and had a little accident, which is to basically say that she was peed all over. So we then have Miko, because of what had happened to Hana, explains that Hana's going to be taking the rest of the day off. So Kakuto is to say to Kiyoshi, it's like, hey, good getting rid of her, so now we can go on and do what we had planned. So now we cut to the end of the episode. So in the following next episode, we then find Kiyoshi and Gakuto having sledgehammers and just kind of working on this shed, and also carving out this hole. Because eventually, at some point, they need to make this hole bigger. Because eventually, when Kiyoshi slides through it, eventually he'll get stuck. Anyways, so the two guys are going on, and they're eating together, and they're trying to figure out about how Kiyoshi can stay in the bathroom, or what kind of plan could they have for him to write him out for a good number of hours. So the next thing we see is the chairman is to have photos of more butts, because he is to basically, his last name should be Seymour Butts. And and he's talking about how he is to fail his daughter as a father. And he's going to go on and seal these things away and dig them in a hole somewhere. Eventually that won't work out. So here's where Kiyoshi goes on and he sneaks out of this hole. So Miko is to go on and ask Gakuto where exactly Kiyoshi is. So he goes on to say that he is to have some kind of bladder problems, and eventually he goes on to realize that, oh, like, there's no way to use that eventually later on, again, because yeah, like, you can't use the same excuse twice. So Kiyoshi is to go on and make his way out of this hole, and eventually he gets stuck outside for a good long time because the chairman is trying to bury uh, this vanilla envelope, and this takes a lot of his time. So uh so eventually Miko is to kind of get to a point where she is to be annoyed by the fact that now Kiyoshi has not shown his presence, and hoping at this point that Kiyoshi is to kind of get back in time enough to where Miko won't go on and find out that they've broken out. So Kiyoshi is to get back through the hole, and eventually he gets stuck. He realizes that this may be a point where he ends up getting discovered here, but eventually Miyoki or Miko will go on and slip and fall through these pieces of wood, and then eventually Kiyoshi will grab her and help her up. And Miko will insult them for the mess of which that they have left here. So here's where Kiyoshi talks to Gakuto about making the hole bigger, and Shingo overhears it, like, hole bigger? Like what are these guys talking about? So so Shingo goes on to the guys later on and asks them what exactly they were talking about making a hole bigger. And also Shingo notices that these guys have gotten very much closer lately. And Gakuto is like, well, yeah, comrades in bondage and this and that. So, uh, so here is where Miko comes in with these purchase requests and basically denies a good number of them, except for uh the one thing that Gakuto wants. And so as she rattles this all off and explains how like there's a possibility that um that Nazu is gonna get his ant farm maybe, and that Gakuto is gonna get this audio player, and Gakuto mentions that he needs this for his foreign language practice. So anyways, the guys are going on and realizing that Miko is to really have like these very uh like almost very revealing pieces of athletic clothing on, and it leaves less to the imagination, and they actually don't like that. They actually like her schoolgirl outfit because it kind of covers more, I guess. uh it's strange. So uh now we further just kind of push on here. So in the early parts of this, Shingo is to want to try to go on and do what these guys are doing. He wants to go on and just figure them out or trying to understand what they're doing. But eventually, the more that Shingo spends time with them, the more that he gets weirded out by them, and then he decides to not do what they're doing because he used to be like, okay, they must be in some weird, goofy sex thing, so I'm not sure about that. So, so as that's going on, the two guys are to probably think that Shingo is to be on them. On them? That just sounded weird. That Shingo is to kind of figure them out. So, if anything, they're like, well, should we bring him in? Should we tell him what's going on? Like, what should we do? And the more and more that they talk about how Shingo likes hair gel, they're thinking like that could maybe be a thing that could kind of keep him quiet. And as Shingo kind of walks by, he goes on and overhears them talking, and again, he's like, "What the heck are they talking about?" And he kind of takes away something out of context, and so because they talk about how things need to be greased up, and Shingo's like, "What needs to be greased up?" So here is the shower scene. So we'd come to find it that Gakuto is to be dropping the soap here, and Gakuto is looking for it. And all of a sudden, Shingo notices these guys are in a very awkward position, almost looking like they're getting a BJ. So as Gakuto is to, of course, have some back issues because the guy is getting his clock cleaned just consistently. So I'm sure he might have some kind of repercussions of that. Uh, we'd come to find that that Kiyoshi is to be like, oh yeah, face plant or something like that, like because the guy just kind of falls over. So Kiyoshi is to want to go on and try and help Gakuto out with his back issues, and so ultimately this is to look like a position of some certain sorts, and Shingo is to just kind of be weirded out by this. So as both Gakuto and Kiyoshi is to get up here, they both look at Shingo, and then all of a sudden Shingo is to see these guys' eyes glowing blue, And the more and more of which that they talk, he used to be more weirded out by them. Having them say, hey, yeah, come and join in on the. Like, we'll have a blast together. And Shingo is to ultimately have changed his mind. So Shingo goes on and says to Miko that he wants nothing to do with what Kiyoshi and Gakuto are doing. And so it's like, great. So they don't have to go on and work him in after all. But also they're going on and asking what the heck happened to Shingo anyways. Like, what's wrong with him? So, but they, I guess, ultimately don't care. So, here is where Kiyoshi eventually makes his way to the bathroom and finds that there is a window that could lead out to somewhere. That this could be a secondary plan. So Kiyoshi is to then explain to Gakuto that, hey, I found this underground tunnel. Like, if anything, um, this is a way that we can get around without being seen. And so eventually they go on and they have to do this uh, of 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 Kiyoshi needing to go underground because eventually the hole ends up getting sealed with concrete, and they find that there is no way to sneak their way through this hole anymore. That eventually the hole ends up getting covered up because the chairman does that himself, and at some point that happens in the show. So they go on and again they re-explain the new plan, and they explain how Kiyoshi is going to crawl through this vent like shaft uh, to make his way to the restroom, and that's going to be their ultimate plan. So now they're prepping said plan. Kiyoshi, as he goes on and makes his way through this underground vent, is to hear from the guys that that Shingo is to tell the group that these two guys are to possibly be lovers, or that they probably have gone on and been doing certain acts within the shower. And these guys are going like, really? Like the two of them? So the whole time, we definitively want Kiyoshi to get out of here and convince these guys otherwise, but he doesn't want to reveal himself. So it's like the perfect thing here. So we have Miko that is trying to get these guys back to work while also going on and doing these squats. So we have Kiyoshi that is completely to be distracted by Miko doing these squats up and down, and eventually he gets hypnotized by them. And this girl's all wet and sweaty and whatever, and yeah. So as Kiyoshi's like, okay, it's now time for me to go on and start to get out of here, he ends up getting a heel kind of caught in this hole, and he ends up getting stabbed in the butt. So uh Miko thinks that there might be some kind of rat or some kind of something that eventually she's stabbed into. Uh, but then eventually she gets back to what she's doing. So Kiyoshi gets back with the group, and Miko needs to go on and ask Kiyoshi what exactly has he been really doing lately, because it seems that he's not to really be as active as the rest of the group members. So at some point it's to be finally revealed that the reasoning for why Kiyoshi is not actually involved as much as the rest of the group is because he is to go on and have hemorrhoids that have gone on to explode in his rear end to showcase that his that his rear end is to be all but bloody. So Kyoshi's to go and be like, hey, why am I bleeding from my backside? And he's like, oh, because of the heel that went into the hole. So now, because of that occurrence, we have that to be a thing that they could use as a way for Kyoshi to be gone for multiple hours, because he's having bladder issues because of the roids. So not the steroids, the roids. So uh, we have Gakuto that ends up getting his device that he wanted, and we'll come to figure out what that whole device is actually going to be. So, uh, Miko goes on to explain to the guys that they're going to be involved in this computer class, and it's going to be co-ed computer class. So the girls are looking at the guys, and if anything, they kind of they hate kind of being in this room with these girls because like they're just kind of looking at them awkwardly. So Chio is to be involved in this class, and so she talks to Kayoshi about like, well, hey, like, see you Saturday. Yeah, see you Saturday. So now Gakuto has to go on and has to come up with how exactly Kiyoshi will be gone, but it'll sound like he's still there. So Gakuto comes up with the plan to hook this device into this computer and hope that there's going to be a number of fart sounds that can go on and be attached to this device. But if anything, when they're going on and they're trying to download any of these things, it doesn't work. So Gakuto realizes that the only way that they're going to be able to make fart sounds and making it look like they're going to the bathroom is if Gakuto right here, right now, in this computer class goes on and just defecates himself. So Gakuto goes on and does this, knowing that this may go on and ruin his popularity and 3 years of his life. But if anything, Gakuto's like, well, I'll risk it if it means I get these figurines. So Gakuto shoves this mic into his bumhole and eventually lets it rip. And is to crap himself. We have Kiyoshi that it's like, Gakuto, no! So the guys all listen in as this guy is to crap himself. And then Gakuto is to ask if he can go to the restroom. And so the teacher allows him to do so. Gakuto now goes on and meets up with Miko, and he has a completely different set of pants on than his normal black and whites. Miko goes on and shames Gakuto for having a different pair of pants, but he is to explain that he was to have gone on and basically crap himself in the middle of class. So that's why he has these pair of pants on instead of the ones that he should be having on. So Miko goes on and kind of makes fun of him, saying like, "Man, is your bowels really that loose?" And and that this guy needs to go on and make some exercises so that way he can kind of firm up his bowels. So the guys are making fun of him, but they don't know any better. So, so Miko goes on and says, "Okay, the shed isn't going to fix itself," and then she walks off. So but if anything, Gakuto and Kiyoshi, they know better. It's like, I don't know. Like, we'll just kind of take our licks here, but, like, again, this is all to be prepared for this escape. So, here's again where the chairman goes on and finds all these pictures that he cannot go on and deny whether or not that he is to just dig them up and re need to look at all of them. He just can't just not look at these buttocks, slapping of women backside meat. You know what I'm saying? Yes, we get you're going on too long. It's 2 hours now. Who cares about this review at this point? Whatever. Anyways, so I'm just having fun. Whatever. Like it is what it is. So uh so both Gakuto and Kiyoshi kind of slap hands here. They go on, they do the this kind of thing. So because they're endeavoring to make their breakout a success. So here's where the chairman he goes on and he tries to concrete bury the pictures this time to hope that this time it's going to stick, but it won't. And then after that, they're going on and they're concocting the whole plan of what Kiyoshi is going to go on and do. And here's where Kiyoshi finds out that the hole ends up getting recovered with cement, and then the chairman walks away. To find it's like, man, yeah, like our school is kind of falling apart. So now Kiyoshi and Gakuto are to realize that their plan has completely fallen apart. But there's going to be a secondary plan that I have already talked about that they're going to do instead of what the other plan was. But people can go on and very much get confused. Anyways, so Gakuto is to be getting very upset that his defecating himself could be all for naught, that he's not going to be able to get these figurines. And the more and more he gets very much upset that his life is ruined. So Gakuto goes on to inevitably find out that Kiyoshi has a secondary plan. And Kiyoshi's secondary plan is that he's going to have to pretend to look like a girl to escape out of the school. And Kiyoshi mentions how he's going to try and get a girl's uniform and try to sneak out that way. They come up with that whole plan, and so we have Gakuto that after that is to be like, okay, well, I need to go on and get as much trouble as I possibly can, because the further and further he gets more and more of these women upset, the more this will lead to his hair getting cut here for punishment. So Gakuto goes on and has Miko punish him for the lumber not getting stacked properly. And Miko goes on and thrusts Gakuto into her chest. And then when he pulls away, he starts grabbing onto her chest, I believe by accident, but also to just cop a feel. So, as there is to be pulling away, Gakuto realizes that he didn't do enough to tick these women off this day. So all of a sudden we come to find that the president is to be there speaking to Miko. So he's like, oh, that'll be enough to really upset them. So Gakuto goes on to rush his way to the vice president. He goes on and does this almost cartwheel and eventually lands himself into thrusting down the president's skirt. So the vice president, Miko, is to be very upset that Gakuto had gone on to do this, and is going to haul away and beat him by like tombstone pile driving him down to the ground. If you guys don't know what a tombstone pile driver is, you probably don't know who the Undertaker is. You probably don't know what WWE is. You probably don't know what a wrestling move is. You probably don't know what a number of other things are to go on and be, because eventually you probably have never seen wrestling. So basically, she goes on and does a wrestling move on him, where basically his face is in between her legs, and she slams him down in a very thrusting like motion. Probably almost look like she's gonna paralyze him. It looks awful. So, but that's how upset she is. So we have the president that goes on and lifts back up her skirt to eventually walk off. So Miko is to say to Gakuto as she spits on him, because she just likes doing that, for him to say his prayers. So Kiyoshi is to be just kind of in awe of Gakuto and what he has done here. And Gakuto is like, yeah, it's a necessary evil to try and have this work against what is to be the new breakout plan. So we have Gakuto that is to receive his hair shaving punishment by Miko. And so what happens here is Miko, she ends up getting this thing out of the drawer. It's censored of what it actually is, and then we'll come to find out that it's not really what you think it is. It's to really just be a shaver. So, and then we cut, I think, to the end of this episode, I think, because I think this is to be the last episode. So, we have Gakuto show his face to the rest of the guys, and we find out that he has a buzz cut. He still has hair left. It's like a little bit thicker than mine. But yeah, like we can see that this guy is to be not really exactly head shaven, but pretty close. So Gakuto is to explain to Kiyoshi about how he had gotten his head shaved, and that Miko had gone on to do that. And eventually he will say that he had kept the hair and had it in his bag, and he's getting this hair on purpose for Kiyoshi so he can go on and use this as a wig, so when he goes on and needs to look like a girl, it could be very much convincing. So Gakuto thrusts the hair next to Kiyoshi, and they're like, oh yeah, you can look more like a girl this way. So if anything, they're going on like, yeah, this is going to be perfect. This is going to work out somehow. So I don't know how it's going to work out that perfectly. Like, whatever. So now we go on and we have to realize that there's this laundromat nearby that cleans these women's clothes, whatever. So now they have to go on and they have to figure out a way to sneak their way to this laundromat to get these clothes then. So what happens is Kiyoshi goes underground and is to find this vent shaft to get to the laundromat. And there is to be this guy that is going on and getting these clothing within this truck. So this guys keep going back and forth, and Gakuto is like, hey, like, this guy, like, is really going on and getting this clothes really quickly. Kiyoshi isn't gonna have time to get to this clothing. So Gakuto goes on and gets the guy's attention by basically rapping and insulting him, and so he's like, hey man, so Gakuto is mentioning to this guy about, hey man, are you insulting me because I have a cleanly shaven head? And this guy is bald also, so I don't get the insults here. So, going on and saying, you were staring at my truly recent shaved head laughing, weren't you? And the guy's like, why would I do that? He's stupid. So the more and more he goes on and sucker MCs this guy, who's to have this cleanly shaven bald head anyways. Uh, we then have Kiyoshi that has realized, okay, this is his time to shine. This is his time to go on and get this clothing and get the heck out of there. So uh, we have Kiyoshi that goes on and finds Miko's panties, and he goes on and he's like, hey, yeah, I can go on and I can know these panties from anywhere because this girl wears the same panties every single time. So Kiyoshi goes on and makes his way into the truck as Shingo is to be pulling this guy away. So Gakuto is like, oh man, I'm not going to be able to go on and help Kiyoshi now. So the guy gets back to the truck, and Kiyoshi ends up getting inside the truck also to be hidden away from this guy. He goes on and gets his certain specific uniform, and then Gakuto's like, oh man, what I'm going to be able to do to help this guy out. Come to find out, Kiyoshi had a contingency plan. All of a sudden, the truck driver runs over one of the baskets, and that's what stops the truck. Inevitably, having Kiyoshi being able to figure out that he has a bit of time to get the heck out of there and go back to the vent and sneak away. So Gakuto praises Kiyoshi when he comes back, like, man, that was a master bit of cleverness with that whole basket there. And Kiyoshi also praises Gakuto for going on and doing what he was doing. All of a sudden, Kiyoshi notices that Gakuto was to have basically peed his pants, or probably also just probably crapped himself again. Because come to find out, Gakuto was really having an issue holding in his bladder, and thinking that he's like, man, I probably need to relieve myself soon. But if anything, I'm sure he just wet himself because he's already gone on to do that in the past. Plus, also, like, this guy can't hold it in forever. So, plus all the excitement, maybe he just let it go. Anyways, so, okay. Miko goes on and talks to the president. Uh, and as the two of them talking, the president is to go on and hope that Miko is going to uh, go on and lay out what these guys are going to do starting tomorrow, and that if that this girl goes on to disappoint her, that if anything, these crows are going to go on and kind of be near her and possibly threaten her, hurt her in a way of which that'll go on and kind of scare Miko here. So, and I know I'm probably throughout this entire time ill pronouncing characters' names incorrectly, so you can go on and correct me in the comments all you like. Because feasibly I'll go on and be like, great comments, because that'll go on and help my channel regardless. I don't think anybody's probably going to really care about this topic, but if they do, go on and correct me all you like, because eventually, again, like, it seems to be the weird thing that everybody just likes to correct people with anime words and whatever. So, like, maybe that's just the way to goat out comments, just to purposely say things incorrectly. I don't know. That's kind of like the whole thing of long videos. That's just like, oh well, like, I guess I could go on and have long videos because eventually people are to comment about them. So it's just like, either way, it helps out the channel by you commenting about a incorrect spelling or pronouncing or what. Like, it helps the channel. Yeah, it probably informs me that that thing is going to occur, but it's probably going to continue to happen anyways throughout further of these reviews. So I apologize if I'm saying a name incorrectly, because if you've not gone on to figure out who these people are by me butchering their names throughout this entire thing, it should not be that hard. But regardless, anyways, so So now we go on and we have Gakuto that is drawing here. And they come to find out through Miko that they're going to go on and they're going to help out at this track meet tomorrow. So, like, okay, great, we're going to be around women, and so that's going to be fine. So, we have Chio that is talking about sumo wrestling. And the more and more she tries to talk to this other girl about this, the girl just clearly does not care. So, now we have Kiyoshi that is setting up his uniform to be underneath his prison clothes and kind of hoping that everything goes smoothly within his day. So the guys go on and make their way out to this field and see a number of women there. And they further go over the plans and where everybody's going to go. And we come to find that Kiyoshi and Gakuto are going to be this like baggage claim guys. So we find these women that are wearing either these shirts and panties and skirts and what have you. So uh, now we have Gakuto that's going through the checklist and unzips his pants, not to whip anything out, but just this recording speaker device. So Gakuto says that, okay, put this speaker unit by the toilet, go on and go out of this window to get underneath uh, to the underground kind of ventilation shaft to sneak your way through, put on your wig and your outfit, put on the wig first. Weirdly, he has to go on and say that. So while that's going on, we have Chio that is making what looks like rice cakes, I believe. I'm not quite sure about the food of this exact culture, so I could be wrong about this. It looks like rice cakes. You can go on and correct me in the comments below. Correct me everything. Correct it all. Just put comments, slap them down on the comments below. Just say how weird and creepy this show is and how you distaste it and you hate it and whatever. Because eventually it'll also just be another comment. It'll help out the channel. It'll help me out. It'll help me know that people exist out there. If anything, even type out gibberish, because also that is via comment. It helps me out. It helps me know that people exist out there. And it's also just a thing that I can go on and just be like, oh, cool, somebody did hear that I am to go on and talk about comments so often. I hope I don't go on and hurt anybody's feelings by going on and stating how much I just want freaking comments. Because I just do. Because it would be nice. And if anything, like, again, yeah, gibberish, you could just type whatever. Like, just to. I guess that outs somebody that watches this. Like, as if anybody is to go on and really know or care. But regardless, just whatever. Just, uh, if anything, I hope you're having a good day. Like, I hope you're having an actual good, positive day. I'm gonna go on and I'm gonna have a birthday soon, so eventually that's the only thing in my mind that is gonna be like, cool, that thing is gonna exist. Am I gonna be doing anything on that day? Not really anything at all. Um, like I would hope to have got on and try to figure out to do something. Like maybe I'll watch like a new release movie on my phone or device somewhere. That's I think the only thing that I'm thinking about probably doing on that day. Because yeah, like there's really nothing really left to do at this point. Um, even like none of the movies are to be playing around the time that my birthday is. So there used to have been, now there isn't. So it's just like, well, okay, this sucks. But regardless, don't go on and just go on to a tangent of everybody just saying happy birthday, because then that's going to just be weird. Because not every day will be my birthday then. But at least I'm being honest. Anyways, plus also, again, I'm just further alonging, stretching out this video because I'm saying words and not really thinking about it. So, because I have the delicious gift of gab, I guess, or I just like to hear myself talk, which is perfectly fine. So uh, so Gakuto says to Kiyoshi about how good of a team that they are and how this is all for his figurines. And Kiyoshi's like, yeah, I get it, man. I know. Like, so, uh, so now Kiyoshi goes on and makes his plan to eventually make his way into the bathroom and have this plan go into final motion. So Miko is going on and beating up all the other prisoner characters here as Kiyoshi is to put his speaker into the bathroom and make his way into the window. Kiyoshi makes his way into the underground vent, goes on and gets both wig and both uh, costume, and we then have Miko that is to figure out that she ends up having this long strand of black hair, and she's like, "Oh, this must be coming from Gakuto from before when I was to shave his head. So there's some just leftover hair residue upon me." So we would then go on and have Miko that is to be making her way through this school, and she's going in the same direction that Kiyoshi is to inevitably be. So Kiyoshi is now thrusting on this costume because he knows that Miko is coming, and so he comes to find out that the costume that he's putting on, or the disguise, is to be fairly small. So uh, Kiyoshi is to have ripped his blazer, and so he's knowing that Miko is coming, so he goes on and puts on a backpack over his torn jacket. Miko finds this girl, is to ask her what exactly she's doing here, and eventually there is not much of questioning, there is not much of her back turning to reveal who she is. She walks off, and then the girl leaves. Miko is to be questioning why exactly this girl was to have been back there, but eventually, inevitably, it's like, just let her go. So now we have Chio that is to be on the subway going on and thinking about her sumo match, thinking about her time with Kiyoshi, hoping that he's going to be able to get out of his school to go on and meet up with her. She's just kind of racking her brain to just kind of think of every possible scenario that's kind of going on through her brain here, as well as also her friend questioning whether or not she's going on a date. So, uh, Kiyoshi is now making his way to the front of the front gate of the school to try to escape here. And eventually he goes on and gets stopped by none other than Mari, who is to be the president and is to have mentioned that this girl is to be wearing a backpack, and Mari doesn't like the fact that this girl is wearing this backpack strangely. So Mari goes on and starts to take away the backpack, but then realizes that this girl's blazer is now ripped. So the girl says, "Oh, I apologize for how I am to reveal to people that your blazer is to have been torn. If anything, I'll go and I'll let you wear your backpack over this blazer, so that way you can protect yourself from being ashamed that your blazer ripped." So Kiyoshi goes on and gets out of here, and he's like, "God dang, like all this is getting very rather close." And Mari is to kind of be looking and kind of be doing a double take and just be like, like, I don't know, there's something weird about this. So, so Kiyoshi is to mention about how all of this is to be now be a flawless victory. So now we have Miko that is to go on and talk to Gakuto, and is to go on and be like, "Hey, where is Kiyoshi? Where is he at?" So Miko is to have made her way to the bathroom after going on and finding out that Gakuto is to have his fly opened. What is he doing with his fly open? So, and she ends up punishing him for it by heel and face. So, uh, the girls are gonna going on and talking about Gakuto like pooping himself and that if anything that they probably find this boy to be gross or that this girl's beating on him or whatever. Anyways, pushing on. So uh we find that Miko goes into the bathroom and basically she's to be answered by fart noises and then Miko comes out of the bathroom and be like, yeah, uh Kiyoshi couldn't have answered me, but a fart is to have answered me. Like I'm so offended. So Miko leaves, and Gakuto's like, "Ha, the plan is working." So Kiyoshi makes his way to meet up with uh, Shio, and they meet up together. So Shio goes on and gives Kiyoshi this towel, and and so the two of them go to this sumo match. The two of them are watching this sumo going on, and so Chio is to have made a lot of food here, and as uh, Kiyoshi is to realize that this food is rather salty, or probably something that he'll probably have to go to the bathroom for, because it's probably not to sit well with him. But he's like, well, hey, this girl is making me this food. I'll eat every bit of it because for how much he actually likes this girl. Eventually, at one point, his face will get so stuffed that eventually there'll be like rice all over his face, and they take a picture together with his face just kind of like it looks kind of just funny and weird. So, uh, and I'm really cutting through a lot of this just so we can rush through the rest of this show. So Kiyoshi goes on and needs to go to the bathroom, and here's where Chio goes on to uh look into Kiyoshi's bag and finds out that there is to be a uniform within it, and come to find out that the one uniform is to actually be Chio's uniform herself because there's to be a tag on it. So once Kiyoshi gets back, Kiyoshi just continues to say about how disgusted she is of Kiyoshi and walks off. Kiyoshi's to be very confused, but then eventually he sees his open sack and realizes the uniform has her name on it. So he's like, oh. So, yeah, she thought that I was weird. So, uh, so now Kiyoshi, hopefully with figurines in hand, is to make his way back to the school. And we have Gakuto that's just pining away about his limited edition action figures. And how this whole baggage clerk thing is to be seemingly a cakewalk. So, uh, all of a sudden Shingo is to arrive here and like, hey, like, what are you guys doing? And further and further talks to Gakuto. At some point, Kiyoshi is to be brought up here, like, hey, where is he? And so Gakuto mentions about how like his pals are kind of backing up and getting worse. So Shingo then goes on and starts to make his way into the bathroom, and so does Miko, because like, hey, why are you guys going on and doing in the bathroom? Here's where Miko goes on and is to want to confront Kiyoshi because he's been in the bathroom for far too long at this point now. So now we have the president that is going on and speaking with the chairman again within his office, and so uh, we have the president that's going on and saying like that soon these guys being in this prison for only a month, eventually their sentence will be up. The president is going on and saying about how eventually these guys will probably go on and do something to inevitably end up having them to be sent right back in for a longer stretch of time. And uh and the chairman is to say even animals learn their mistakes. Hormones. Anyways, so uh the president goes on and says, "Pardon me, I'm to have a text," and then she leaves. So we have finally the vice president that wants to go on and break open the bathroom stall because Kiyoshi has not answered her now. So Gakuto is to try to use his device, hoping that there's going to be some fart noises or some uh, deucing distress that is to have happened here. And it seems that the Gakuto's device is seemingly at this point in time not working. So Miko is to thrust her foot into this door, and we end up drawing an end to this episode. And now I go on and spoil what is to happen via this episode. So we'll come to find that Kiyoshi is to sneak back into the bathroom and is in the bathroom stall and is going to be revealed that yes, he was taking a dump. He will be shocked by Miko and eventually will get out of the bathroom stall. So he won't go on and he won't be discovered here. That's what ends up happening via this episode. So, with that said, yeah, from memory, that is to be, of course, what happens there. So it kind of just barely revealed that. So with that said, I'm gonna get the heck out of there. Get the heck out of here. So I'm gonna upload this. Yeah, like I will go on and after grinding away on Timu and what have you to hopefully still get Bubkiss nothing out of that. I'm hoping to get a Resident Evil hoodie soon because it's to be getting closer and closer to that point where it's going to be delivered. So that's gonna be cool when I get that. Because I'm planning on using that for certain thumbnails for Resident Evil. But ultimately, not all those will be going on because I've already made some thumbnails already for some other Resident Evil movies that eventually I will be talking about at some point in the future. So be prepared for those to happen because of the success of the last Resident Evil movie that has been reviewed. I'm going to go on and continue to do more of those because that seems to be the big ticket item right now, besides some anime stuff that have gone on to review. Or also just some random action movies that have gone on to just eventually just review and then people have watched. I'm being very honest. Like, yeah, I've very much put my foot in my mouth consistently, but also, like, I hope that maybe also people can very much appreciate my honesty. That I'm not going to go on it and pull the wool under your eyes um, and like I want to consistently say that I want to try to be the best person I can possibly be. But there's also just points of this where I'm just like I don't really want to try to clickbait people into this, but I feel like at some points it kind of feels like the only thing to really to do to make the things as appealing as they possibly can, to wear these costumes, to stand out, to go on and just do all of this stuff to eventually hope that this channel will get somewhere now that um, I'm to go on and I feel I'm finally getting my feet under me and finally getting to an actual point of what looks like either consistent or what looks like real progress here on the channel. And also, mistakenly putting out a review like this that may go on and either do really well or do donut holes of nothing. When really I probably should have gone on and probably done Resident Evil, or really could have gone on and done a certain project that would probably go on and get more attention, but I'm doing this. Hopefully I'd be wrong about this and it does extremely well, and then I'd be like, huzzah! Um, it's great that I did this weird, goofy show that eventually people are to um, be interested in, because man am I gonna try every possible tag I can to I have to. I have to keep trying to be consistent, and I have to keep trying um, every trick in the book to just keep alive here. Um, and then ultimately, like for every time that anybody could be like, "Well, yeah, of course you have to trick people and whatever." I do this for free. I've been doing this for a long time without getting a donut hole's worth of, well, like, I get free shirts that are not from YouTube. Like, I get free shirts and free costumes and free stuff out of this, but, like, that is nothing from YouTube at all. Like, I'm not going on and having any single iota of person need to send me money or send me gifts or whatever from this. Uh, I'm not having any of that being done. I'm hoping to figure out a way uh, to just do that on my own, and it's becoming harder and harder to do so. But like, I do that for how much I believe that this can work. I do all of this um, because I want this to work. Like, I want this to be a thing um, that I can go on and I can justify at some point to continue to keep doing and hope that the numbers keep uh, going well. And uh, and I need to keep figuring out ways to just be creative and also fulfilled within these pieces of content that I can just pull away from and just get something from. Um, I wouldn't go on and recommend something um, and lie about my enjoyment of it or my disgust of it or my negative of it. Like, if, like, I'm not making these things up, I'm not going on and I'm not going to fabricate anything. There could be some videos that some people could assume that I've done so, but I just throw my hands up and I'm just like, whatever. Like, uh, like there's only so much I can do to really uh, try to have this review be the best it possibly can be, or to just kind of keep a bit of relevancy. But either way, I'm to be just shocked and amazed by the people who have reached out and subscribed, and people who have viewed this stuff and find my content and listened to it at some point very briefly, but however, of a guy who has gone on to make so many mistakes upon this channel. Most of them by opening my mouth and saying words, uh, probably for too long or probably too often. Um, but either way, I'm to just go on and be like, okay, now I can rest. Now I can go on and grind away for hours on Temu, hoping to get 2 whole shirts or 2 whole um, bits of costume or 2 whole things that are going to go on and maybe be a bigger benefit to this YouTube channel. Yeah, so with that said, I'm going to get the heck out of here. Goodbye, everybody. Bye, everybody.